Most welcome to the 11th Parliament, to the 5th session. The Forensic and Scientific Analytical Services Bill 2025 was read for the first time by the Minister of State for Internal Affairs. The Forensic Evidence Bill had been withdrawn on Wednesday, 12 February 2025 by the Minister of State for Internal Affairs. When it was reintroduced, it was a new bill, so it followed the same procedure, and the Speaker referred this to the committee according to Rule 135(2) of the Rules of Procedure. Before us today is the Minister and your team to formally present this bill to the committee so that the committee begins processing this bill within 45 working days and will report to plenary. First, we thank you because you listened to us, because you listened to the stakeholders who were invited by the committee, who appeared as witnesses. We see that this is a new bill. Without wasting much of our time, honorable colleagues, I think we give a chance to honorable Minister to formally present this bill before us, and we begin processing. Over to you, honorable Minister.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. In between then and this last first reading, before it came back to the committee, many things were reviewed with your guidance, the title, the scope, the content, etc. And this therefore hopefully makes this second go easier. Colleagues, this presentation is on the Forensic and Scientific Analytical Services Bill 2025. You may be aware that at the forefront of government's agenda is promotion of peace, security, and safety of persons in the country. And as such, there's a necessity to address the gaps in the regulation and delivery of forensic and scientific analytical services in Uganda. Background: forensic services have a broad contextual application in the criminalistics and civil justice settings. Within the justice administration realm, forensic services supplement the functions of institutions of the administration of justice in the detection, investigation, prosecution, and control of crime. Forensic and scientific analytical services have historically been relied upon by law enforcement agencies and processes to assist in investigating and solving crime and delivering effective justice, and by the judicial system in the adjudication of criminal cases. Universally, forensic laboratories have evolved and transformed to integrate a range of non-forensic analytical services that serve related or distinct purposes. And such purposes include statutory testing for advisory, promotion of environmental health and safety, ascertaining chemical efficacy and safety, product quality verification and related promotion of trade, and market competitiveness, etc. Chair and honorable colleagues, forensic services in Uganda are traced from around 1927, when the Office of the Government Chemist, GC, was established. The first report of the government chemist dates back to 1935. The government chemist has evolved and transformed over time to the present name of Government Analytical Laboratory, GAL. Provision of scientific, analytical, and forensic services is key to the security of persons as well as the peace and stability of the country. This role is performed by the Government Analytical Laboratory, established to provide a full range of general scientific, analytical, forensic, and advisory services that facilitate effective legal proceedings to dispense fair justice and safeguard people's environmental health and safety. GAL serves government departments under various programs that include but are not limited to the following: the Governance and Security Program, the Administration of Justice Program, justice statutory bodies that include the National Bureau of Standards, UNBS, the National Environmental Management Authority, NEMA, and the National Drug Authority, NDA, Water Development Department, Agricultural Chemicals Board, and the private sector. The Government Analytical Laboratory has now integrated a full range of general, non-forensic analytical services that serve to promote environmental and public health and safety, enforcement and regulation of public health and safety, environmental protection, product quality verification to facilitate private sector trade, growth and competitiveness, as well as contribute to collection of government revenue and national economic development. Colleagues, GAL is internationally accredited as an ISO certified government institution that exists to provide specialized scientific, analytical, advisory, and referral services to foster the effective administration of justice, private sector growth, and ensure general public safety. The Government Analytical Laboratory, GAL, is assigned the policy mandate of providing specialized scientific, analytical, and advisory forensic services to foster administration of justice, private sector growth, and to ensure general public safety and national development. GAL derives its statutory, analytical, advisory, and referral functions from the different statutory references to the Office of the Government Chemist, contained in various pieces of legislation that include the Evidence Act, Cap 6, the Magistrates Act, Cap 16, the Courts of Judicature Act, Cap 13, the Identification of Offenders Act, Cap 119, the Firearms Act, Cap 299, the Habitual Criminals Preventive Detention Act, Cap 118, the National Environment Act, Cap 153, the Control of Agricultural Chemicals Act, Cap 29, the National Drug Policy and Authority Act, Cap 206, the Standardization and Quality Policy, the National Bureau of Standards Act, Cap 327, the Explosives Act, Cap 298, the Adulteration of Produce Act, Cap 27, the Uganda Revenue Authority Act, Cap 196, the Agricultural Chemicals Registration and Control Regulations 1993, the Agricultural Chemicals Control Act 2006, and the Water Act, Cap 152. With particular reference to Uganda problem statement, the conduct and practice of forensic and analytical science services, the operation and practice of forensic and analytical laboratories is supported by and legislations, but these remain scattered and in some cases incoherent. In other instances, there are aspects of forensic sciences that are not regulated at all. And these legislations include the Evidence Act, the Magistrates, I think this should be Magistrates Court Act, not Magistrate Act, the Courts of Judicature Act, the Identifications of Offenders Act, the Firearms Act, the Habitual Criminals Preventive Detention Act, the National Environment Act, Control of Agricultural Chemicals Act, the National Drug Policy and Authority Act, the Standardization and Quality Policy, the National Bureau of Standards Act, the Explosives Act, Adulteration of Produce Act, the Uganda Revenue Authority Act, Agricultural Chemicals Registration and Control Regulations 1993, and the Agricultural Chemicals Control Act and Water Act, respectively. There is no specific reference policy or law under which the various forensic services are delivered, and as such, forensic and scientific analytical laboratory operations and associated standards is very important and not prescribed by any specific reference policy or legal framework. The absence of a comprehensive policy, legal, and regulatory framework implies that there is no enabling environment that mandates and defines the functions of GAL to facilitate effective and efficient delivery of scientific, analytical, forensic services. This has constrained the effective development of the forensic and scientific analytical industry and exposed the public to the risk of industrial and consumer chemicals. The sensitivity of many aspects of forensic and scientific analytical services calls for to mind the necessity of a strong and harmonized regulatory framework to safeguard against real and potential risks. It is also notable that forensic and scientific analytical services are growing fast, ostensibly integrating a number of pre-existing and emerging developments and fields. This underscores the need to develop a harmonized regulatory direction to properly guide the development, application, and usability of analytical results in these fields. Expected outcomes / results. Colleagues, the expected outcomes by the government action in coming up with this new law will include reduced level of criminality, increased confidence in state institutions, strengthened national system for forensic science research, development, and knowledge transfer, increased public interface, understanding, and appreciation of forensic and analytical services, strengthened and integrative institutional framework for the development of forensic and analytical science services, a well-regulated and effective forensic and scientific analytical services industry. Consultations undertaken. Chair and honorable colleagues, in order to appreciate the importance and need to regulate the forensic service industry in Uganda, the Ministry made a number of consultations with the following institutions: the Ministry of Finance, Planning and Economic Development, the Ministry of Justice and Constitutional Affairs, the Parliament of Uganda. Your input was immense and appreciated. The Office of the Directorate of Public Prosecutions, the Ministry of Public Service, the Ministry of Health, the Uganda Police Force, the Uganda Law Reform Commission, select subject matter experts, among others. All these institutions and individuals consulted in keeping that Uganda should provide for a comprehensive forensic and scientific analytical service. The key features, clauses of the Forensic and Scientific Analytical Services Bill 2025, Part 2, Administration and Institutional Arrangements. Part 2 of the bill outlines the regulatory framework for forensic and scientific analytical services. It provides for the establishment of the Government Analytical Laboratory and its designation as the National Referral Center for Forensic and Scientific Analytical Services. Additionally, it defines the functions of the Government Analytical Laboratory and facilitates the creation of regional analytical laboratory. This is not to mention that it expressly provides for the creation of GAL. The bill also outlines the functions of the department and reporting obligations to the minister. Furthermore, it addresses the appointment of inspectors, inspection of premises, powers of inspectors, and the requirement for inspectors to submit reports. The key features, clauses continued. Chair and colleagues, the key features of the bill will include 6 parts and 1 schedule. Part 1, preliminary. This part deals with the interpretation of keywords and phrases used within the context of the bill. Part 3, I think there was, my paper was, we started with 2 instead of 1. Yeah, sorry for that one. We should have started with preliminary. So now we are going to part 3. Part 3 of the bill covers forensic and scientific analytical services, including procedures for requesting analysis, collecting samples for analysis, and issuing a certificate of analysis and reports. It also establishes a forensic and scientific database outlining regulations on access to forensic and scientific information, submission of DNA data, and retention and storage of samples. In addition, it provides for the rectification of information in the database and safeguards against the unauthorized disclosure of information.
That you have gone and had to do a surgery on this bill and reintroduced it when it is looking fit for purpose, serving only one objective other than touching here and there. That is the questions and the quarrel that the committee and other stakeholders had. I can see that the bill is now reworked. It is focused on girl. It is not trying to, as they had said, usurp other people's mandates, but specifically for government and elite collaboratory. We have a few questions, honorable colleagues. You are free to come in, but maybe part one, if you can go to part one, the interpretation clause. We see terms like forensic analysis, laboratory analytical report, yet they are not used in the bill. Would want you to come clean on that, whether they are of any value. We see the term like forensic analyst. We wonder whether this term can be harmonized with forensic practitioner used in clause 5C. Do they mean one and the same time? Are they different? And if of what import are they to the bill? But let me give a chance to honorable colleagues to intervene, ask questions for clarification. The rest will be for us to further do surgery and process.
The first one,
yes.
Honorable Chair, I didn't get it. You first talked about
the term forensic. Forensic analyst, and then laboratory analytical report.
Where is that one? Laboratory analytical report.
Page
5.
Okay. Honorable colleagues. Yes, Honorable Keyo.
Thank you, Chair. I also want to thank the Minister for retabling this bill. One is on the DNA. The DNA tests and how it is going to be harmonized. It is a serious question in the country where you find that some has caused even divorce and whatever. And it is an area of interest. People will want to know how is the bill going to address this DNA centers. You can walk to any clinic, the child is tested if Honorable Inaitwe, God forbid, has a question. Has a question of a kid or a child he is suspecting, may or may not be his, move to the center and walk out with the results. How is this bill going to address those areas? And then the poison. I find that the bill is going to address poison and then poisoning. And isn't it going to be in conflict with other laws? For example, the DNA, the NDA Act addresses the question of even the agriculture, the pesticides and whatever. Isn't it going to be in conflict? Isn't this bill, or eventually when it is enacted, going to be amending other existing laws? Then I want you to tell me how you arrived at the 4 billion annually you are likely to get as NTR. Yes.
Okay. So specifically, Honorable Keyo is asking the 6 submission of DNA data. On DNA, his question still stands. And then his second question is on how do you arrive at, I think that is...
another one was the conflict, other existing laws, because there is a line of laws that actually also talk about poisoning and drugs. How isn't this one going to be in conflict? Isn't it going something that an act of parliament that is amending other existing acts?
No, they dropped that one.
No, I have seen a line evidence of whatever. I don't know how it is going to be harmonized. Then also, I wanted to get clarity on the mandate of the minister, apart from providing regulations. I don't know whether this will come when we look at clause by clause, but is there any remedy? For example, in other laws, we have always had appeals. Supposing I'm not satisfied with the chairman, the minister's position to deny me either a license to operate a DNA center, where do I really get remedy? Or for example, before my clinic is entered by an inspector, doesn't he need to get a court order? I don't know when this will be addressed when it comes to clause by clause, but I wanted clarity such that it doesn't infringe on my human rights as the owner of a testing center or a DNA center or an analytical laboratory owner.
Okay. Thank you, Honorable. Okay, Honorable Arnitwe.
I would also like to take this opportunity to thank the sponsors of the bill. Now it looks it is specific. It's no longer meandering, going to this ministry, going to this department. Now it looks it is more focused. But my question is as a ministry, do we have a policy on forensic and scientific analytical services? Do we have a policy? Or if we not, how do we get a bill before we have a policy? I wanted to know. Otherwise, thanks so much.
Thank you, Honorable Arnitwe. Yes, Honorable Donozio.
Members of the public and members of parliament, and more so members of this committee, have been putting the GAR minister to a task to explain the relationship between the forensic department of police and the GAR. Now that we have this in place, the GAR, or whichever is certified by the international body. In other words, they have ISO certification. And I can see at the same time you are also going to issue licenses to those doing the scientific tests. Are you going to be certified? Are you certified to that level of also issuing other certificates to other institutions or not? And then two, in relation to that, you have been carrying out a number of activities, including ballistics investigations. Is it also going to be one of your responsibility, or you are now going to do away with some of the responsibilities to Uganda Police? Yeah, thank you, Chair. And also on issue of the forensic laboratory, the forensic science done by Uganda Police. I can see the GAR has been certified by the international body. I don't know whether police is also certified. And if not, or any other laboratory, what is the implication of this, especially in the administration of justice? Thank you.
Thank you. Honorable Sebi, subclause B, what constitutes forensic ethical privacy matters? Forensic ethical privacy matters. You can... Clause 5. B, monitor compliance with forensic, ethical, and privacy matters. Okay, yes.
Thank you, Chair. I would like to know whether we are going to get time and go cross by cross. Because now if we say cross 5, cross 10,
No,
are we going
it's,
to
if
get
you had,
chance?
we, of
And-
course, yeah.
And we go cross by cross?
Honorable Leonid, the minister is here for as a witness. So it is, and we may not need to call him again. So feel free to raise. Yeah. Yes, you can answer part one and then. But maybe before that, just a broad. I wanted to know to what extent has this bill consolidated the policies and services related to forensics into one bill. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Chair and members. This is not an attempt to usurp the role of other agencies. I think we should clear that one from the onset. But it's to legalize what we have been doing de facto as a referral body for others, because that one should be clear. We are not taking on other people's roles, but we've been advising other agencies of government, URA, Uganda National Bureau of Standards, even the police. So that referral role and other matters, that new additions like having the poison information center. You remember we had contention over this even with the Minister of Health, that we don't do diagnostics, because that one is a matter of the doctors. But we can keep the information regarding, which is lacking in the country now, regarding matters of poison. We can test for whoever wants us to test and put that data in that information center. That said, Chair, like you said at the onset of your submission, this is a now more condensed and focused piece of proposed legislation. Previously, remember, it was scattered, and gladly with your guidance, we condensed it into this form. Still work in progress. Like you said, there are some things we need to correct further, and you'll help as you go in the detail of processing the bill. Like you mentioned, the interpretation clause, part 1, forensic analysis, laboratory analytical report. They appear in the interpretation, but they don't appear in the text. I would want to have Chief Government Chemist to comment on that one, but the idea is that if you mention something in the interpretation clause, then by implication you should have it covered in the text, and maybe you may have to add forensic analysts to where you designate inspectors. Where you place it is a detail, but Chair will note that one and we shall correct it. So too regarding laboratory analytical report, you should cover it comprehensively, both in the interpretation clause but also in the text. Honorable Keyo, DNA tests data and data clause 2.6, the processes of how it will be done. How is it? Maybe Chief Girl, you will tell us how is it done now, and how desirably should it be done with this bill, because it's a very contentious issue, especially regarding paternity disputes. Paternity disputes, how do you do it? Do you work in a clinic and test which clinics are accredited? Is that covered in the bill to do that kind of work? And what are the protocols to do that? Maybe if they are not in the bill, they should appear in the regulations that will accompany this bill. So Kate will be prepared to answer that one. But also I want to mention that the purpose for asking for DNA is not only paternity. It is also sometimes for criminal investigations. So you may want also to comment on that one. And then Poison Information Center. Honorable Okeo mentioned this, but we are also doing this in referral capacity. If you look at the background of the paper, honorable members, I think it's page 1, 2, 3, I don't know which page it's not paged. It's not paged. There's where they say that the Government Analytical Laboratory is assigned the policy mandate of providing specialized scientific, analytical, and advisory forensic services to foster the administration of justice, private sector growth, and ensure general public safety and national development. GAL derives its statutory analytical, advisory, and referral functions from the different statutory references to the Office of Government Chemist contained in various pieces of legislation. These are scattered. What we've been doing is we've been doing these services, but we have no legal mandate in express terms. So the idea is that while we are doing this role, we should be covered by the law. Otherwise, if, say, God forbid, somebody makes a mistake, how do you bring them to account? Even in that referral capacity. But people come to us, various departments, even Uganda National Bureau of Standards, Drug Authority, the police, but we do it without any legal cover. So the idea is to do this work with the provision of the law. The 4 billion figure, the chemist will tell us how he arrived at that one. Mandate of the Minister, Honorable Keo, if somebody has a grievance beyond the Minister, where do they appeal? I think we need to provide for that. If it be court, then we should say so expressly in the bill. Where does one go beyond the Minister or that committee, or rather department set up? In the opening of the bill, if each one of you has this bill, there's somewhere where we say the object of the bill. And I think by that answer the question of regulation. The object of the Forensic and Analytical Services Bill 2025 is to provide for the regulation of forensic and scientific analytical services, to establish the Government Analytical Laboratory, to designate it as the national referral for forensic and analytical services, to designate now the Department of Inspection and Legal Services at the Ministry as the regulator. You know, initially, GAL had wanted to take this role, and you said, no, you can't regulate yourself. But also here I want to propose that we add in the text, when we are talking about this regulator, the Legal and Inspection Department, we should provide that it may co-opt an expert, any expert as it deems fit, because this is a purely scientific matter, and you don't allow the lawyers to preside over something that it is a legal matter, but largely a scientific matter. When I was talking to my people, they were saying that we may need to train the legal people, but that's not enough. You may need once in a while to co-opt scientists, because it's a purely scientific matter. So I think that one is an omission. But the regulator now is moved from GAL to the ministry. The logic was that with rationalization, we don't need to create another department, because we asked the Attorney General, he said no. Because when we read in the other jurisdictions, like in the UK, they have a special committee. The AG said we are not going to create another department. After rationalization, he said, then we saw in India, I think they have somebody in the ministry, but one person. But we thought this is a very scientific subject. You need more than one person. And maybe with the permission of the committee, you allow this department in the text where it is covered, the regulation of these services, to co-opt an expert as they may deem fit. I think that is Honorable Keo. Then Honorable Arine Itwe No policy framework, I want to confess, but we've been operating and in a vacuum. So I think what we are doing is to hop, step, and jump, and run to creating a legal framework, which by implication also covers the policy intent of government,